This review contains spoilers.
I am Duncan MacLeod, born 400 years ago in the Highlands of Scotland. I am immortal, and I am not alone. For centuries we have waited for the time of the gathering, when the stroke of a sword and the fall of a head will release the power of the quickening. In the end, there can be only one.
Duncan and Tessa are on their way to an old friend of Duncan's. He then feels that his friend Lucas Desiree just died. An innocent war veteran gets arrested for this murder. Duncan wants to find out the truth about Desiree's death and learns that the sheriff is an immortal too.
Here we are, born to be kings. We're the princes of the universe. I am immortal. I have inside me blood of kings. I have no rival. No man can be my equal. Send me to the future of you all.
At the very beginning of the episode, we see that someone killed an immortal. We learn it is Duncan's friend Lucas Desiree. Duncan is with Tessa on the way to his cabin but collapses. He felt that his friend died. I never knew that they can feel when somebody else dies. I'm worried they put it in so we as a stupid viewer get a simple motivation. The thing is, when he can feel this guy dying and we had just one interaction between these two, then what is with other people who were closer to him, like his clan member and mentor Connor MacLeod, and others as well? I saw now the first movie and there was nothing like this either. This adds something to the Highlander lore, but I have the suspicion that this will be a one-time thing. I like the idea of a policeman being an immortal from an ethical perspective, since he should hold up the law. And this episode is very well directed. The camera work is dynamic and you have a few long shots in it. These are more simple things, but shows nonetheless quality. Sergeant Powell comes to this town because he investigates the beheading since episode 1. He talks with the sheriff and you notice that the sheriff is very orderly with how he used the mug coaster. It isn't important but gives the sheriff as a character some depth. So Sergeant Powell asks the sheriff about the victim and the sheriff includes in his answer that Desiree's folks probably owned some of Sergeant Powell's kinfolk in the early days. The sheriff says this because he tries to manipulate the sergeant so that the sheriff can deal with this problem without interfering, and the sheriff did this relatively subtle. We then have an interrogation scene. You have Leo, the veteran, who is a bit nut. You have the sergeant who wants to find out the truth. And you have the sheriff who wants to cover it up. The setup is sadly not as good as it sounds, or rather the execution. Then the part with Leo and the trauma he suffers from is the focus of the scene. This isn't that subtle, and I would have wished for more manipulation attempts from the sheriff, but the scene was still interesting enough. Duncan then has a flashback in which we jump to the American Civil War and we see him digging his grave. Quite literally. He tried to free black people and shall be hanged. The captain of the Confederates is Lucas Desiree. He makes sure that Duncan gets respect due to his uniform, and this even if it is the enemy, which is a really good message. He lets him still hanging though, but after everyone thinks Duncan is dead, Desiree frees him. Duncan first thinks Lucas did help him so he can kill him, but sees that he has no interest in doing so. They have a little exchange and everyone goes his way. It is great to see 2 points of view in a civil manner, that someone from a side you would consider being evil behave honorable and vice versa. And no matter on whose side somebody is, On each side you have bad apples. So speaking of bad apples, the bad apples of the town who got manipulated by the sheriff intervenes the sergeant, and they wanna have Leo. Paul is like, this will not happen, and they shall leave. Duncan shows up. I don't know where he's coming from though. He's just in stealth mode and takes out 2 guys. Richie arrives with a news lady as well. They wanna film it, but bad apple guy with a shotgun threatens them. Duncan saves the day by being manly and vanishes as he came. Where did he park his car though? I mean, Duncan followed the news team to find them. How did he get there on foot without anyone noticing it? And that fast? Faster than the news people. In the end, Duncan and the sheriff face off. The fight is again fun to watch. It is also kind of interesting that you can tell with just a sword which gets used in a fight a little story, even if it's just headcanon. The sheriff killed Lucas and had a lightning show, and the cabin is still standing. Duncan takes the head of the sheriff and the cabin blows up. I mean, it looks cool, don't get me wrong, but why the differences? In the very end, Richie asks Duncan about Lucas. Duncan answers that he took care of him, and then we get this shot of his grave with the sword, and the sword, it has this lightning stuff. What does this mean? And these are my critical points for the episode. The beginning when Duncan collapses, and the end of the episode with the sword. I don't trust these things. Or at least I hope they go somewhere with this and not make it just because it could be cool or interesting or something else. So, this was my review of episode 4. What did you think about this episode? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you are new. And hit the notification bell. Thank you very much. Have a nice one. You take care. See ya.
Hello? Hello? Department of Transportation, hello? Sunspots!